On today's Hot Sheet, I'm discussing Lambert's house price tracker, what Compass CEO Robert Reffkin has to say about the 2024 housing market, and mortgage loans in forbearance. Today is Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024. I am Byron Lazine, and the Hot Sheet starts now. Okay, I am no longer in New York City. Happy to be here in my Connecticut studio. Let me know in the live chat which market you're tuning in live from today. We conquered, got everything we needed out of New York City today, so came back a day early. We've got all the Ryan Serhant content and an exclusive interview that Ryan told me was unlike any interview he's ever done. Most people asking about motivation, social media. I went straight business and tactics, and he went deep on both topics. That interview will be up somewhere next week. So if you're interested in Ryan Serhant's exclusive interview with myself here on the BAM channel, make sure you subscribe. All right, let's get into today's hot sheet topics. And first, we've got Lance Lambert's house price tracker. Now, we know, tracking all of the projections, we know that Zillow has reported a U.S. home price increase by 3.2% in the calendar year of 2023. We just reported on that, of course. We also know that Zillow only about 5 months ago was projecting a 6.6 increase on home prices before completely flopping on that projection when rates hit 8 and going all the way to 0%, a flat projection, before now saying home prices, the expectation is to go up maybe 3 or 4 percentage points. So what does Zillow and this home price tracker from Lance have to say now? Specifically, there's 800 metro areas that are updated in this report, and 3,000 counties. So there's significant amount of data. There's certain markets, especially the Northeast and the Midwest. We've been beating that drum over and over again, which have experienced home price growth in 2023 that exceeds modest levels, and in some cases bordered overheating because of the significant lack of inventory in those two particular regions, while areas like Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi continue to contend with correction mode conditions throughout 2023. And some of the projections even have those areas doing more of the same. All right, so let's take a look at some of this data here that Lance has laid out for us. Here is the home price shifts. I don't know, Haley, this thing doesn't appear to be even on. Maybe you can turn that on so I can share the screen, and I'll share with you guys the home price tracker map. This will be available, of course, for everybody to download inside of BAMX. If you're not in BAMX yet, obviously use code HOT to get 10% off of that. Haley, while she's plugging this in for us, I'll get you over to being able to see that here in just a minute. My earphones went out as well, Haley, so I don't know. There you go. All right, just a little technical difficulties here, Connecticut. You know, I thought it was a disaster going from that New York City hotel room, but maybe Haley's shaking. If you can see Haley right now, she's shaking her head in absolute disgust. We'll blame it on Bobby. We'll blame everything on Bobby. All right, here's some other data here, but while we're waiting to get the charts up. Housing markets with elevated growth in 2023, like San Diego, like the Northeast, like the Midwest, have exceptionally tight inventory. And so there's still pockets in these areas where the inventory hasn't eased up yet. We were talking about Knowledge Brokers podcast on Friday. Go to @Knowledge Brokers podcast. One of the best episodes we've ever done was Friday's episode. And Lisa's looking at the data in Massachusetts, for example, because that's where she's a broker. And she's like, oh my God, the inventory is worse than it was last year. So while it feels, the anecdotal data is telling us in those markets that listings are loosening up, and there's certainly evidence nationally that that's the case, and the bottom's probably behind us on new listings. The facts are telling her in the MLS that, wow, inventory is even worse than last year. So some areas does seem to be sinking. The overall story is obviously that these things are loosening up, and we have a belief here that the bottom is behind us when it relates to inventory and new listings. Okay, so here we go. We've got this up. Here's the shift in local home prices on the year, and you can see that Northeast Midwest is super blue, very very much meaning that you had 7% or more on home price appreciation, while areas like Texas and Louisiana were in the red, where you saw 5 to 7% declines. You see that in the West, pockets of California, pockets of Nevada, but the rest of the country really spattering there with a lot of blue, a lot of home price growth. The Eastern Seaboard, especially, and the Northeast, and that's due primarily, obviously, to that those inventory crisis. All right, so let's take a look at specific regions. You can throw into the comments what you're interested in on home price shifts in 800 largest metro micro housing markets. So we've got 800 to do pull from. This link will be available in BAMX, so you can grab it easily and mess around with this as much as you would like. Miami, look at Miami since March 2020, 57.2% up year over year, 6.7%. Shift in the 2000 since the 2022 peak is at 6.4%. That's always a number that I think is really interesting. You see San Francisco since the 22 peak is down 12.9%. Seattle's down 10, but you have an area like Miami still growing 6.4%. Philadelphia still growing 4.1% since the 22 peak. Looks like we would like luxury Los Angeles. Los Angeles right here. Los Angeles 33.8% since March 2020. So below the national average of 39.8 for LA since March 2020, 6.3% year over year. So last 12 months, good. Shift since the 22 peak, down 1.5, not bad. And that is down from the peak. That was the peak. The 22 peak is 1.5%. Month over month, LA down 0.4%. Okay, I see Milwaukee on the list. Here's Milwaukee, 33.1% since March 2020, so below the national average. 7.9% though year over year, and shift since the 2022 peak. They've continued to grow since the 2022 peak at 4.3%. Their peak was in 2023. They're down 2.6% off of that peak, and month over month down 1.1%. Let's go to Cincinnati. Cincinnati's up 39.5% since March 2020, so right in line with the national average. Year over year, 5.3% up. Shift since the 22 peak, 1.8%, and down from this year's peak at 2.1%. So Cincinnati pretty much in line with national average. Cincinnati would be, a good comp to the nation, to US. Okay, I'll just drop my ring here. I'm feeling the effects of a New York City day yesterday, I think. Okay, we got OKC in the chat. Oklahoma City, there it is, 38.4% since March 2020. That's in line with national average. Year over year, 3.2%, down from the peak. This year is 1.4, but shift since 2022 peak, 2.1%. So Oklahoma City, Cincinnati coming in right on the ball with national average. I see Nashville in the chat. Let's go to Nashville. 43.9% since the March 2020 peak, down 4.9% since the 22 peak. So up over the national average since 2020, but trending down since the 22 peak in Nashville. Greensboro up 44.3%, so above national average since the 2020 peak. Year over year, also up 4.9%. Shift since the 22 peak, 2.2%. So Greensboro performing a little bit better than the nation since 2020, and then in line, or above actually year over year, and then in line since peak. So Greensboro, very popular market, popular for investors, obviously. Let's take a look at Charlotte. Charlotte, North Carolina, 52.8% since March 2020. This is an incredibly strong market, just ripping since 2020. Year over year, 2.9%. And then from the 22 peak was their high, down 1.8%. So just a little bit off the top since 22. Portland Portland is at 26.7% since the 2020 peak. So this is one of those markets that's, um, you know, lagging the rest of the country. 1% year over year up, down 7.6% from their 22 peak. So Portland not in line with the growth from the rest of the country, according to the Lambert price tracker. By the way, price tracker here is using the Zillow Home Value Index through December 23 with seasonal adjustment. Month over month is, November 23rd to December 2023, rather. November 23 to December 23. Year over year would be end of 22 to end of 23. Down from peak is whatever their peak it was during the pandemic. And then since the 22 peak is change in prices since that market's respective 22 peak. So Portland, one of those markets that is lagging the country. Let's take a look at San Jose. It's one of those markets that's done well this year. Look at that year over year, 6.5% in San Jose. But since March 22, 26.1% up. So similar to Portland, lagging the country's growth since March 2020, and since their 22 peak, they've lost almost just shy of 10% at 9.4%. Let's see if we can get. There is 800 counties here, and so let's see if we can get Marin County, Marin County, California, not coming in, but I can do. It says just north of San Francisco. We can do San Francisco. Obviously, we 16% since March 2020. Market that's really struggling, and obviously the prices are enormous in San Francisco, but struggling in comparison to national growth. And then they've got the commercial real estate issues on their hands there. Maybe Marin County is different. Unfortunately, this data is not giving us Marin County. Phoenix is up 47.7% since March 2020, beating the national year over year, up 1.4%, but down since their peak in 22 from negative 8.9%. We've got Greenville now. Greenville, South Carolina. Greenville is at 45.3%, above the national average, 3.1% year over year, in line with, and then since the 22 peak, up 1.4%. That's a growing hub. Greenville looks like a place to potentially invest in. Okay, so there you go. This will be available in BAMX for anybody who'd like to grab that and take a look at it. Now let's take a look at what Robert Reffkin has to say about the 2024 market. Robert Reffkin, of course, is the Compass CEO. Let's take a listen to what Reffkin says about this 24 housing market.
Effect of current homeowners. You were saying that things are looking a little bit different here as we go into 2024. How?
Yeah, well, it's official as of Friday. The number of homes that sold last year was 4.1 million. It was the lowest level since 1995, and the population today is 27% bigger than 1995. However, this year, all the key signs are pointing the right direction, specifically inventory, because more inventory equals more sales. And you have 7% more inventory today than this time a year ago. And you can see as well, 5% more homes under contract today than a year ago.
So is it that mortgage rates? Is it the relief? Is that what's changing things?
Yeah, 8.1% mortgage rates last fall was very difficult, but now it's basically free marketing to the entire real estate market saying that 6.8 is a good deal. And so you have more.
Is that working?
It is working. You have more buyers than sellers. And sellers today are more realistic on pricing than they were last fall. That modest buyer strike led to 39% of all homes.
Oh, those home builder numbers huge.
So prices are better now than they were.
The Redfin data on listings, new home listings, is up 2.7 year on year. You think that's low?
Yeah, I think that we're going to continue to see more demand for new homes than existing, because people today want things that are new, and there's just not enough homes available for sale in the existing home market because of the rate.
Charlotte and Indianapolis, we've been talking about that a bunch.
This time last year, 72% of homeowners were locked in at 4% or below. Now it's actually 59%. And so although it's still high, it's much better than it was a year ago.
Do people try to beat each other to the punch before spring comes? Or do we have to wait for spring like we
the smart ones still?
In the last month, I've spoken to over 1,000 of our agents and just asked them, how's the market going? The most common quote I've heard is, this is the busiest January I've had on record, and more buyers are calling me over the holiday season than ever before. They were working over Christmas. They were working on New Year's Day, New Year's Eve. And so, yeah, I think buyers are trying to beat people to the punch before the spring market really hits.
Regionally, you always give us a breakdown. Does it continue to be, some of these warmer places or low tax states that benefit? And what about the pandemic darlings? Have they come back down to earth?
Yeah,
we just went through that. They
Low
did.
tax warm weather states are still, excuse me, are still very attractive. But I think Florida has more staying power than some of those other markets.
True.
Texas, Carolina is still strong, but Florida, it's just benefited longer than the others. It is a vacation community that the entire country can go to. So if you're, it is a retirement community. So if you're planning retirement 5 years from now, you could just accelerate it earlier. And there's still enough of the country that's working from home where it does make it more viable. I would also say the spillover migration markets. And so markets people move to when they're getting priced out of their core markets. So let's say San Francisco moving to Las Vegas or Sacramento. You have DC moving to Charlotte or Raleigh, or Austin moving to San Antonio.
Hey, folks.
Okay. All right. We don't need any commercials. Get that out of there. We don't need any campaign commercials. All right. So the one thing I don't agree with, which is it was anecdotal evidence. He talked to 1,000 agents, and they are overwhelmingly telling us the biggest January on record. I mean, I don't know. I haven't met too many agents that would say this January, while it's don't be a prisoner of the moment. It's looks to be, I mean, we're almost done with January. It feels more promising of a start than last January did, but it's not busier than 22. It's not busier than 2021 January. 2022 January, when you knew, hey, there's a potential for the rates to go up. 2022 January was on fire. 2022 January was crazy. You remember like 20 multiple offers, 15 multiple offers. That was all the time, every property in January 2022. And so don't be a prisoner of the moment. I do agree that there's slightly more buyers than there is inventory, or, in some markets, a lot more buyers, again, going back to the Northeast, Midwest. The big thing he said there was there's less people that are locked in under a 5% rate, still high, but than there was before. So that is an encouraging sign. We keep looking for signals here on the hot sheet that the bottom is behind us. That's one of those signs. And I think it was the best point he made there on CNBC, that, we're starting to see things loosen up. We're going to start to see sellers emerge that have been on the sidelines, that have been locked in, and so that number is going to be one of those things that helps with that. The rising inventory we've been covering, it's all positive week over week here so far in January. These are positive numbers. Lower prices, we see that there's less price cuts. Actually, he said lower sellers are reducing prices to attract buyers. He pointed out 39% of homes on the market experience price drops. We're not seeing that with Altos Research, and I tend to look at their data as being a great measurement. Of course, we covered this on Monday. It was in the low 30s. It was less price drops than last year. So maybe he was referring to the end of, you could have gotten that number somewhere in the fourth quarter of last year. But if he's looking at the weekly data like we look at here on the hot sheet, that wouldn't have been accurate. More owners are selling their homes, mortgage rates decrease. Yep. I think we're seeing a loosening effect. We'll see how that carries through in February. The proportion of homeowners locked in a mortgage, that was the big one. Under 4% decreased 72 to 59%. So that was the big number. That's a good number to help loosen those things up. And that's Reffkin's take. All right, let's take a look at mortgage loans in forbearance really quick. This is something that folks have pointed to that don't know what the heck they're talking about, quite generally speaking. where they're like, all those homes in forbearance are going to come back to bite us. Well, right now, the total number, just for an update on this, the total number of loans in forbearance decreased another 3 basis points from 0.26% in November to 0.23% as of the end of December 2023. An estimated 115,000 homeowners are remaining in these forbearance plans. It's not a lot. I mean, we would take inventory bump of 115,000 active homes on the market today and still be 250,000 homes shy of this time in 2019, which I would consider a normalized market. So if all 115,000 homeowners in forbearance went on the market today, it wouldn't impact the market negatively at all. In fact, it would probably create some health in the market and get things moving and maybe even stabilize some of those markets where prices are continuing to shoot up, as we just saw in segment one. Mortgage services have provided forbearance to around 8.1 million borrowers since March 2020, down to 115,000. So anybody that says these forbearances are going to come back to bite us, they're essentially gone. Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae loans and forbearance declined. So that category of loans also declined to 0.15%, 0.15%, just really small numbers. MBA anticipates that unemployment rate, which is a leading indicator of mortgage performance, is going to gradually increase by the end of 2024 from the 3.7% that we're at now, maybe up to 4.5%. So you might see some, not foreclosures, but some delinquencies. Typically, when you see unemployment rise, although there's been plenty of projections unemployment will rise and just doesn't happen. So we'll see. 60% of the borrowers that are in forbearance, it's due to temporary hardships, job loss, death, divorce, disability. 26.8% are still in forbearance due to COVID-19, probably related to job. So 12% are in forbearance due to a natural disaster. So there you go. There's the forbearance update. Not a issue at all right now on the share of mortgage loans in forbearance. Here's a quote from Marina Walsh, the vice president of industry analysis, CNB Mortgage Banker Association, president of industry analysis. While forbearance is a powerful tool for delinquency surges resulting from natural disasters, major disruptions such as PANI, today's borrowers are not experiencing widespread financial distress. The overall performance of servicing portfolios, particularly government loans, declined in December. Factor such as seasonality, changing labor market, resumption of student loan payments, and the rise in balances and other forms of consumer debt are likely at play here. So not worried about that measurement at all. Let's have a quick worry at the 10-year, or a quick look rather. 4.138% today, ticking up. Yesterday, we did get a 30-year fix to come off of the high from the week prior, down from 6.92 ending last week to 6.87 yesterday on the 30-year. We'll see where it ends up today. Where you should end up on February 7th is one place and one place only. That's the BAM Pro Bowl. It's a free virtual event for real estate professionals from 12 to 3 Eastern time. Ryan Serhant will be keynoting this event. I just sat down with Ryan for a one-on-one interview yesterday. He'll be talking branding and that kind of stuff at the event. Yesterday, we talked business and tactics. So make sure you hit subscribe to this channel so you don't miss that interview coming out next week. Also, obviously promoting this event, the BAM Pro Bowl, which will not only feature Serhant, but also Neil Dingra, David Childers. I'll have a conversation with him about the market. Jason Pantana, Gary Gold sold the Playboy Mansion, Danielle Garofalo, brilliant luxury expert, Marie Lee, content, really smart with Instagram, Jimmy Mack, and of course the script master. We've got the broke agent and actually agents involved, in Amanda Bradford doing the anthem. This will be the most unique virtual event you've ever attended. So grab your link down below to grab your seat. And of course, as always, to get the most out of our content at BAM, join BAMX, use code HOT to get 10% off of BAMX. Hope everybody has a great day. We'll see you back here tomorrow, 9:30 on the East, 6:30 on the West, with another hot sheet. And until then, toodaloo.